How is it going, guys? So welcome sa Arkistic. Today, ngayong araw, magrereact tayo sa isa sa pinakasikat na YouTuber na architect ngayon sa buong Pilipinas. At yan ay walang iba kundi si Llyan Oliver Austria. So meron siyang dalawang channel, which is yung Llyan Austria at yung Oliver Austria. Dun sa Oliver Austria, nagre-react siya sa iba't ibang mga bahay ng mga artista, mga celebrities at iba pa. At dun naman sa Llyan Austria, dito nagbibigay siya ng tips, tricks, hacks sa mga architecture student. So ngayong araw magre-react tayo sa isa sa kanyang video dun sa Llyan Austria, which is Architectural Hacks 1.0. So start na natin. Ayaw.
How's it going, guys? Llyan here, and today I'll be teaching you guys some tips, tricks, and hacks as to how to make your architectural student life a little bit easier. Let's go! Tip number 1 or technique number 1. So I call this technique the paper scale technique. So basically what you need to have is a scale and a piece of paper. It could be scrap or...
So dun sa pinakita ni Llyan Austria, meron siyang hawak na paper scale, which is hindi ko nakita nung ako pa ay nag-aaral ng architecture. So kung ang meron lang kami nun ay itong mga parang Toblerone like na ruler. So Toblerone siya dahil sa shape niya at hugis.
Huwag mo nang joke.
So sa bawat side ng scale na to ay may iba't ibang scale kang makikita, which is from 1:100 to 1:600. So depende yan kasi may mga scale na umaabot na or may scale na alangan yung sukat, which is mga 1:50 ganon, 1:75. So may iba't ibang type rin ng scale. So meron ding maliit na scale, which is ginagamit sa mga maliit na plate. So usually ginagamit yung malaking ito sa malalaking plate.
Very big brain. Or a new paper, doesn't matter. What you are going to do is you determine the most used measurement that you used all throughout your plate. So for me, that is the measurement of the walls and the measurement of the column.
So sabi nga niya, yung most used na scale ay yung measurement ng column at yung measurement ng wall. So sa mga hindi nakakaalam, yung measurement ng column natin is 0.4 at yung measurement ng wall natin is 0.2 sa exterior at 0.15 or 0.10 sa interior. So yung exterior wall ay ito yung mga wall na makikita sa labas or nasa outer part layer ng bahay natin. Yung mga interior walls naman, ito yung mga walls na makikita sa loob or ito yung nagiging partition sa loob ng bahay natin.
So take that measurement and then transfer that onto your piece of paper. So now that you have transferred that, you don't have to look at your scale all the time looking for the specific measurement of the walls and the columns. So this technique has saved me a bunch of time, especially when I'm rushing.
So nung kami pa yung nag-aaral, hindi namin ginawa yung ganitong technique. Hindi namin alam kung bakit or kung talagang gamit ba siya or mas easy way. Pero yung papakita ko sa inyo kung ano yung technique na ginagamit namin nung ako pa ay nag-aaral. So ito yung size ng column natin kanina, drawing ko lang. Pwedeng 0.4 by 0.4. Pwede rin namang 0.2 by 0.4. Pwede rin namang 0.3 by 0.4. Depende yan sa itata yung structure. Yung wall size naman natin ay 0.2 sa exterior at 0.15 sa interior. .2 sa exterior at 0.15 sa interior. So yung sinabi ko kanina, yung technique na ginagawa namin nung kami pa nag-aaral, kapag nagdo-drawing kami ng wall at column, halimbawa, yung size na area na pagtatayuan ng bahay ay kunyari 4 meters by 4 meters. So either magsusukat kami from inside to outside. Halimbawa, yung do-drawing namin ay wall. Either magsusukat kami from dito sa reference line na ito palabas and papasok. Halimbawa, 'di ba, 0.2 yung wall natin. 0.2. Ibig sabihin, susukat ka ng 0.1 papunta dito at 0.1 papunta dito. So meron ka ng wall. At ito ay reference line na lang. Meron namang iba na ganito yung ginagawa. susukat sila ng 0.2 either papasok or palabas. Halimbawa, sukat ka ng 0.2, yun na yung kanilang wall. At yung iba, sukat palabas ng 0.2, yun na yung kanilang wall. So, may iba't ibang way kung paano sila gumawa ng wall or kami kung paano gumawa ng wall nung kami pa ay nag-aaral. So, para sa column naman, ganun din yung process. Halimbawa, ito yung corner at dito mo gustong ilagay yung column. Susukat kami ng 0.2 palabas at 0.2 papasok. Halimbawa, andito yung wall mo. Ito na yung wall mo. Especially, lalagay mo yung column sa gitna ng wall mo. So, yung 0.2 na wall mo, para malagyan mo siya ng column sa gitna, susukat ka ng 0.1 papunta dito at 0.1 papunta sa labas. So, ang total nun ay 0.4. So, ganun yung mga techniques na ginagawa namin nung kami pa yung nag-aaral. So, tuloy na natin.
Always rushing when I was in architecture school. I don't know why. Tip number 2. So, tip number 2 is for those of you out there who are constantly mounting and dismounting your plates on and off your drafting table. Okay, so one thing I hate about dismounting and mounting my plates onto the drafting table is that the edges or the corners of your plate tend to rip and then it's like fibery stuff come out.
Yes, nangyari nga yun sa amin nung kami pa yung nag-aaral. So, yung mga tape na ginagamit namin ay yung mga masking tape. So, ang probably nangyari, pag tinatanggal mo na yung plate mo dun sa, or yung tape dun sa plate mo, ang nangyayari ay napupunit yung tape ay yung tracing paper namin. Especially kung A3 paper pa siya or Bristol, mas mapupunit siya dahil papel. Yung tracing kasi medyo madulas pa eh. Pero kung mga Bristol, mga papel na vellum, yun yung mga talagang pinoproblema namin dahil di namin alam kung paano siya tatanggalin sa tape.
Of the edges because of the points where the scotch tape used to be. So the scotch tape constantly removes a bunch of paper from your plate and then eventually there's no more corner left on your plate.
So ayun nga, minsan nawawala na yung dulo or yung corner ng plate namin dahil nga sa pagtatanggal ng tape.
So what you do is you take a piece of tape and then cut it in half. After you've cut it in half, put it on the corner of your plate. So every time you mount and dismount your plates from the drafting table, you aren't ripping your paper. It's basically tape on tape contact. So you're safe. Tip number.
So yung isa lang sa problema na ginawa ni Architect Llyan ay yung tape na nilagay niya sa first para matakpan yung papel ay hindi na pwedeng tanggalin yun. So ang tendency nun, ipapasa mo yung plate mo na may tape sa corners. Yung ibang prof ayaw nila ng ganon, pero yung ibang prof maintindihan yun. So yun lang yung pros and cons nung technique na sinabi ni Architect Llyan.
Tip number 3. So have you ever drafted and then you look at your plate and magically there's some sort of smudge or dirt on your plate? That is probably caused by random rogue pencil dust pixies. To avoid that, I discovered
yung sinasabi ni Architect Llyan ay yung pagsa-slide ng mga Tsquare at yung triangle mo sa plate mo. Kasi may tendency na nakadikit yung plate mo or nakadikit yung mga tools mo, halimbawa yung triangle and yung Tsquare sa plate mo. And then, halimbawa, gagamit ka ng Tsquare, i-slide mo pa yan sa papel mo. Ang tendency nun ay pwedeng kumalat ang lapis, halimbawa lapis yan, or yung tech pen sa iyong plate.
For this technique where you put a bunch of tape on the corners of your drafting instrument. So you get tape and then you get a piece of paper or preferably thicker than paper like a cardboard and then tape it onto the edges of your drafting tool. So what that does is those things acts as some sort of foot, if you will, for your drafting instrument so that the contact between your drafting instrument and your plate is minimized, thus minimizing the magical pixie black dirty dust thingy on your plate surface.
So yung technique na yun ay ginawa namin nung kami pa ay nag-aaral, pero hindi talaga ganun yung pagkagawa. Yung ginagawa namin ay titape na namin itong buong ito. Hindi na kami naglalagay ng kung anumang rubber na nilagay ni Architect Llyan. Ititape na namin siyang buo na paikot. So sa ganung paraan, hindi na siya magkakaroon ng contact dun sa papel mo, or yung tape na lang yung magkakaroon ng contact dun sa papel mo.
Tip number 4. So this tip is for those of you guys who are always rushing. I know I was always rushing in college anyways. So when you're rushing, you really don't have time to look at your tech pen and check what type of line weight it is. So here's what you do. You get yourself some color tape right here, and then mark each pen with the corresponding color. That way, every time you look at your pencil case, you already know what line weight that specific color is, thus saving you a bunch of time.
So nung kami pa yung nag-aaral nga, yung ginagamit namin is yung tech pen, which is yung tatak niya is Staedtler and Rotring. Yung Staedtler kasi ay may color coding na siya agad, dun pa lang sa takip niya at sa bandang likod ng tech pen. So alam na namin kung alin yung line weight niya depende sa kulay ng tech pen. So yun yung isang way para malaman namin agad yung line weight ng tech pen namin, which is yung sa color coding na nakakabit agad. So ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na color coding. Medyo basa lang siya dahil sa bagong linis lang siya kanina. So ito yung sinasabi ko na color coding niya. Meron na siyang color coding agad sa takip at sa bandang likod. So yan. Ito, naligaw tayong takip. Blue na siya. So yung blue is 0.3. Yung orange ay 0.5 at yung parang medyo red, or yung orange ay 1.2 at yung medyo red ay 0.5. So yun yung isang pros kapag original yung binibili mo. So itong tech pen na to ay nagkakahalaga, nung binili ko to is around 700 yung 0.1 and then pababa and below. So depende yan sa point ng tech pen na bibili niyo.
Okay, tip number 5. So this tip is one of my most heavily guarded secrets. So here's what you need. You're going to need a ball of alcohol, preferably rubbing alcohol, then some cotton, and a printer. Okay, so here's what you do. You get the image that you are going to reproduce. Get it from Google or Wikipedia or whatever source you want. Okay, so now that you have got your image, bring it to photo.
So ganun din nung nag-aaral kami. Halos lahat ng reference namin kinukuha namin sa Google, Pinterest. At kung gusto mo ng magandang reference or ng magandang output na drawing, kailangan yung pinakamatindi or pinakamagandang drawing sa internet yung kukunin mo. Kasi yung sense kasi niyan, kapag pangit yung kinuha mong reference, mas pangit yung output mo. Tendency, kapag naman maganda, sobrang ganda ng kinuha mong reference, tendency medyo maganda yung magiging output mo. Pero depende na yan sa skills ng isang student, kasi may mga student na kahit pangit yung reference, napapaganda nila pagdating sa drawing.
Image, bring it to Photoshop and then flip it, print it out, and then after you have printed it, lay it face down on your plate and then begin dabbing it on the back with alcohol. So what this is going to do is it's going to transfer the printer ink onto your plate, thus creating the illusion that you have watercolor rendered on your plate. The only thing that's left to do is to draw out the outlines, put some shading with some pencil, and then boom! You are done. 20 to 30 minutes tops, you already made some sort of picture of the Taj Mahal or something. This is not advisable for those of you who have a lot of...
So yung ginawa ni Architect Llyan na dinab niya yung cotton and alcohol para magkaroon ng kulay yung another paper, hindi siya masyadong approved for me dahil pag dinab mo na kasi yung alcohol and yung kalalabasan yon ay parang blurred pa rin na output, kasi kulay lang yung lilitaw nun, hindi mo pa rin makikita yung output. So ang kailangan mong gawin ay tumingin ka pa rin sa reference para makuha mo yung outline ng drawing mo. May another way para mapaganda mo yung drawing mo, which is yung bucket system. Yung bucket system ay yung kukulayin mo yung likod ng papel and then kukulayin mo yung likod ng papel ng reference mo with a pencil, and then ipapatong mo siya sa iyong papel na gagawing ipapas, sa papel mo na ipapas, and then itetrace mo yung reference mo sa taas and boom, meron ka ng outline ng drawing mo. And then yung kailangan mo na lang gawin ay kulayan yon.
Very big brain move. Have a lot of time, only use this forbidden technique when the time is tight and you really have no choice. But if you have a lot of time to do your plates, I suggest that you do it because painting and drawing is a lot of fun. So this is just a last resort. Use it wisely. Also, don't share this video to the teacher.
Yun, gaya na sinabi ni Architect Llyan, mag-enjoy ka sa bawat plate mo kasi minsan hindi mo namamalayan, halos rush na lahat ng plate mo, hindi mo namamalayan na nawawalan ka na ng gana, and then nawawalan na yung love mo para sa architecture. So yung magandang gawin habang student ka pa ay gawin mo yung best mo sa bawat plate mo para sa ganun wala kang pagsisiyan pagka-graduate mo, and then pagbalik tanaw mo sa mga plates mo, halimbawang architect ka na, ganon. And then pros pa nun ay magiging proud ka na ipakita yung mga plates mo nung nag-aaral ka pa dahil nga ginawa mo yung best mo sa part na yon.
They might discover that you did this, and you know, the last tip of all is the most unusual technique that I have used. It's not really a drafting tip, but an overall architectural or engineering school technique. So this technique is called my all-in-one guitar bag technique. Pretty self-explanatory. What you have to do is just buy an electric guitar bag, or if you want a larger carrying capacity, buy an acoustic guitar bag. So why did I come up with this technique? When I was in first year, I really had a bunch of trouble carrying my Tsquare and then a bunch of rolls of vellum and some tracing paper. So I was really annoyed by how many stuff I had to carry as an architecture.
So nung nag-aaral pa kami, nagkakatuwaan kami kasi alam namin or madidistinguish namin yung mga freshmen sa mga higher years na. Yung mga freshmen or yung mga first year to second year level na mga Arki students, alam namin na sa paningin pa lang or sa bit-bit pa lang nila, kasi yung bit-bit nila na Tsquare at canister ay may laman pang, ay nakabag pa ganon or nakabag pa. So kapag nakabag pa yung Tsquare at yung canister or may isang bag pa yan, alam namin na freshman year or second year architecture student, kasi yung gamit niya nun ay mga bagong bili pa at talagang inalagaan pa niya yung mga gamit na yon. So mga third year, fourth year, fifth year na yan, wala na halos pakialam yan sa mga gamit nila. Yung Tsquare nila, dinadala nila, minsan wala ng bag or wala na yung talagang lalagyan niya, at yung canister minsan hindi mo na makikita sa mga higher years yan kasi ifo-fold na lang nila yung tracing paper or yung plate nila, and then ididikit na lang nila sa Tsquare. Kumbaga parang espada na lang yung dating ng Tsquare at saka yung kumbaga parang isang bit-bit na lang. So yung ganyang guitar bag, wala pa akong nakita dyan. Wala pa akong nakita nung nag-aaral ako na gumawa ng ganyang style. Meron pa yung pinapatahe na lalagyan ng Tsquare at lalagyan ng canister sa isang bag. Ganon yung meron sa amin.
Architecture student. So there was this time I went inside the jeep and then I hit someone in the face with my Tsquare, and the whole time I was riding the jeepney they was giving me the stinky eye, and I was like, oh.
Totoo yun, kapag Arki ka, syempre palagi ka may bit-bit na Tsquare at saka mga triangle, ganyan, canister. Hindi namin namamalayan na may natatamaan na pala kami sa likod kasi minsan yung hawak namin iba-ibang posisyon nga. Tapos yung sabi ko kanina na minsan wala ng bag yung Tsquare namin, kaya minsan yung matulis na part ay nakalitaw. So minsan iipit namin dito, and then di namin alam may natatamaan na kami sa likod. Minsan nga may ganyan pa eh. Yun. So minsan ganun talaga pag architect, minsan hindi mo na namamalayan na yung mga dala mong gamit ay nakakatama na pala sa ibang tao. So I guess doon na natapos yung reaction video natin kay Architect Llyan, which is the Architecture Hacks 1.0. So sa next vlog ko, gagawin naman natin yung Architecture Hacks 2.0 para naman mabigyan kayo ng kaalaman or dagdag tips sa mga binibigay niyang techniques, and then malaman na din natin kung talagang effective ba yung mga tips and tricks na ibinibigay niya. So kung gusto niyo mga ganitong content, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell para updated kayo sa lahat ng video. So thank you for this day and flying peace.